for me, before employee engagement was a buzzword or a thing that I got into researching, it was kind of just an observation I made that teams that are in a great environment and feel secure do great work.
Welcome to the Leadership Snapshot Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Andrews. Each episode, we focus on leadership topics, concepts, and ideas that'll help you develop your leaders and develop yourself. So stay tuned. We have a lot to talk about.
My guest today is Christine Dolliver, and she is an HR professional who is passionate about helping individuals develop.
You know, it was when I was first getting into HR and, taking a look around at the management styles of the different teams in my organization and realizing what internal cultures fostered great work and what ones weren't so great, that I was able to take a look at what are those great teams doing and how can I help those other teams to do some of those great things that are making these employees show up every day and be their best selves and bring their best work with them.
So what do you think the difference is between a manager and a leader?
Sure. So I have myself worked for some amazing leaders, and I have worked for some, managers. And when I say manager, I mean, in my opinion, you manage a process or you manage a thing. You don't manage a person. And so having worked for some managers, where they're really coming from is a place of intimidation and fear. It's if you do something wrong, you're going to get in trouble. You're due here at 8. If you get here at 8:03, it's because you're a bad employee. And if I invest in developing you, then you might leave, or worse, you might take my job. And so management to me is really a lack of trust and empowerment between the employer and the employee. Leadership, on the other hand, really comes from a place of servitude. How can I help you? Whether it's how can I help you do your job better? How can I help you grow personally and professionally? How can I help you get past this situation that you might be experiencing in your personal life so that we can get back to having a great work life together? It's caring about people above and beyond just the job that they do, but the person that they are.
I love that. That's one of the things that I'm so passionate about is, and I talk about this all the time, is we have to develop whole leaders. And a lot of organizations are stuck on this thing of, hey, we need to develop leaders in our business. The reality is if I'm not functioning well as a person, I can't lead well.
Yeah, 100%. And it's been my experience that the way that you do anything is the way that you do everything. And so if you're going through things in your home life, then there's no such thing as not bringing that part of yourself with you to work. Just like if you're going through things in your work life, there's no such thing as not bringing that home with you. It's simply not the case. So if you are going to develop great leaders in your organization, it's got to be about more than how can I train you to be better at leading this team? It's got to be, how can I train you to empower yourself in every area of your life so that the whole person is able to pour yourself into the things that you're passionate about, whether that's building your team or even, your personal fitness, your spirituality. It's how can I develop you from all of those aspects, because you are a whole person and all of them play together into creating the best leader you can be.
Absolutely. So how do you think leaders invest in their people? How do they do that?
Well, there's a number of ways, right? You can invest time, which just means, and it is an investment. And it's where I think a lot of people fall short is sometimes you really do just have to sit down with the people in your team and ask transparently, how are you? How are things going? not going well, what could be going better, and how can I help? It's also investing company time. Some people say, I would love it if I could develop leaders on my team, but I just can't send them to a week-long leadership training. I need them here. And I think the opposite is you can't afford not to send them, because the person that comes back from that sort of experience is going to be so much more productive for you in so many different ways. And they're going to be more enthusiastic and grateful to you as an employer for having invested that time for them. Not to mention the resources, right? It's someone on your team comes to you and says, I'm really interested in developing myself as a leader, then I think you need to not just say, that's great, go do that. I think you need to say, awesome, let's create those opportunities for you. Whether it's finding projects within the team that they can lead from a peer capacity, or it's starting a book club with the team, so they can all begin to read leadership resources together. Or maybe it is, spending that time and money to send them away to some sort of leadership training program, which I think I can't overvalue. It's just something that we need to do for our leaders if we ever expect them to move from management into true leadership roles.
So you mentioned two things that I preach all the time because I think they're super easy and super cost effective. If people are raising their hands, projects are a great way. And I think specifically with projects, it's the cross-department projects.
Mm-hmm.
Emerging leaders inside of our organization, that gives them a broader picture of the organization.
And they can see how all those pieces kind of fit together, not to mention gain some more exposure within the other parts of the organization in case leadership opportunities arise outside of their specific team.
Right. You help them build relationships, which is huge. We know that leadership is really about relationships and the influence that you build with other people. So you help them start that process. You help them learn to manage projects, which is important. Help them learn more about the organization. And then you're giving them the opportunity to practice leadership skills in a safe environment.
100%.
So I love that. And the book club thing, I am such a fan of that. And I always say, so if you have an employee who says, hey, I don't read books, then I think if that's their answer, then they're probably not a growth-minded leader, because here's the truth. Even if you don't read books, there are books on tape. Mm-hmm. There are blogs about books. There are videos about books. So if you're innovative, you can figure out how to do a book study and it doesn't require any reading.
That's absolutely true. And I think in my experience with great leaders, I don't know that I've met a single one of them who isn't an avid consumer of leadership material, whether it's books or books on tape or podcasts or seminars or just anything that they can get their hands on to continue to grow in that capacity.
One of the comments that you had written to me, which I absolutely love, it says, leadership is earned, not given. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. And I'm sure you've seen this too, but I've been in organizations where the managers in that organization came into those roles because they had been in their role the longest. They knew the company and the department the best. And so they were the clear person to lead that team when it grew large enough to need a leader, kind of thing. And I think that's great. And I think those people deserve those roles. But I don't think it's enough to say, here's your title. In order to actually take on leadership in that team, you now need the training to be a people leader. It is not enough to say, I've been in the weeds, so I know how to do your job. It's got to be, I'm inspiring you to do your job even better than I was ever able to do it. It's allowing people to make mistakes and innovate and make processes better. And I think that when you are giving them that safe environment where they can innovate and they can create and they can make mistakes in combination with inspiration to do better and getting to know them on a personal basis and asking those great questions in order to get to the bottom of the mistakes that they make and help them learn from them, that's when your people start looking at you and saying, okay, this is someone who cares about me. And this is someone who I can trust. If things go wrong, I can come to them without fear and say, hey, I screwed up, and we'll work through that together, as opposed to having management based on a title alone. And now your people fear you and will go to a peer or a leader on another team because it's more comfortable rather than going.
So one of the points that you made, which I think is so important, is you need to train your leaders. Some leaders have natural talent, but I believe even if you have natural talent, if you don't keep developing it, finding out new and things that you don't already know about ways to be a leader and how to really function in that role, I think you miss out on opportunities. And somebody who's done that training can surpass somebody with natural talent because they're practicing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about a little bit with the people who've just been given a role and not taught how to lead, is if you go above and beyond and now give them that training to be able to lead that team, then you multiply your effort. It's, again, a difference between leadership and management is you should never be threatened by your own people outgrowing you. That's just one of the signs that you are, in fact, a great leader.
I love that. So what are some of the other signs that you're an effective or a great leader?
Well, I'd say you need to start by looking at your own team. Are your people engaged in leaning into their work, or are they afraid to make mistakes and unwilling to take risks? A great leader will create that psychological safety to where their team members are willing to try something new and screw up once or twice and learn from it and make things even better because I'd also look at yourself and say, do I know my people on a personal level? If you can look out at your team and realize, I don't know their kids' names, then that's a sign that maybe you need to step up in a leadership capacity. And do they feel comfortable coming to you? Like I hit on earlier, are they going to turn to a peer leader or a leader in another department before they come to you out of fear or discomfort, or because you are leading from a place of intimidation?
I do a lot of content online, and one of the conversations I had was how important it is to do weekly one-on-ones with your people.
Oh, yes.
It helps you build that relationship so that people are more comfortable coming and talking to you. So one-on-ones are about building relationship, connecting, and understanding where that person is in the process of all their work stuff that they do.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is really that relationship so that you're not afraid to go talk to your leader about something that's going on.
That's exactly right. And I think that's where some people can get caught up in, oh, I'm losing time, I'm losing productivity by, spending a half hour once a week with all 10 of my people. Think of what I could have accomplished in that time versus think of what you did accomplish in that, because your people are growing because of your investment in them and are able to be better employees because they are going to be more engaged when they know that you care about them. And when they know that, if a kid does get sick, then you're going to be understanding, or they know that if their work slips, your first reaction isn't going to be fire them. It's going to be, hey, this isn't like you. I know you better than that. What's going on?
If somebody wants to talk to you, if they say, hey, I really want to talk to Christine, or I want to know more about what she's doing and where she's working, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. So please feel free to find me on there. I haven't looked it up, but I don't think Christine Dolliver is all that common. So you can definitely find me there. And you can feel free to email me as well. So my email is C as in cat, D as in dog, OLLI, V as in Victor, ER @bradenonline.com. It's a fantastic organization. So if you do want to learn more about Braden, I'd be more than happy to talk about that. Or if you just want to connect with me to, chat, I'm up for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Christine, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I love some of the lessons that we talked about, and I think it can make a really big difference for leaders in their organization who are trying to figure out, what do I need to be thinking about?
I appreciate you having me, Sarah. Genuinely, I'm humbled to be asked to be a part of this alongside with some of the incredible leaders that you've had on the show before.
If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe so that way you can hear new podcasts that come out every week. Embrace your journey, and we'll talk to you next week.